So, I am Kathleen Velo, and I am here to talk to you about my project, Water Flow, Water Quality on the Hopi Reservation. I made these photograms, underwater photograms, of water on the Hopi Reservation as part of the project Parts, the Art of Water in the Southwest. In 2018, I was invited by discontinue to participate in the project, Coach, the Art of Water in the Southwest. I was one of 7 artists invited from around the state. I was honored to be included in this project. During a week-long boot camp early in the project, artists were provided with background information about various water issues throughout Arizona, with the end result of the artists creating working on medium, sharing their own unique experiences and perspectives about water in the Southwest.
Kathleen, I am so sorry to begin, but we have received 2 comments that your audio sounds a little muffled. So if you kindly pull maybe your microphone a little closer or see if there might be anything obstructing your microphone, please.
Yes, no, thank you, dear. I think we're good. So, can you hear me now?
It is better when you get to those higher tones, yes.
Okay. Shall I resume?
I think so.
Okay. So, a bit of background. I think one of the reasons you invited me to participate in a project was because I had been working on various projects that addressed the idea of water quality in the Southwest for a number of years. I had done several projects during the previous 8 years, creating underwater photograms in various lakes, streams, creeks, PAT basins, and lakes to create a perspective of water from below the surface. The major project I completed involved creating underwater photograms in the entire length of the Colorado River, from the headwaters in northern Colorado to 5 states and into the Sea of Cortez. I also did collaborations with aquatic biologists. I worked with the CFP people here in Tucson, looking at CFP water in the recharge basins, and I did a year-long project in a spring that was in a canyon near Tucson. So,
Kathleen, when you lean close to your PC, the audio does seem to improve.
Yeah, I know. Closer. Making a photogram is a basic photographic technique, and it uses only a light source, light-sensitive photographic paper, and objects which block light from hitting the light-sensitive paper, creating a shadow on the paper. For my projects, I use a flash strobe for light and chromogenic color light-sensitive photographic paper. The water and its contents is what created the shadow image on the paper. Because of the light sensitivity of the color photographic paper, it has to be handled in complete darkness, which means in the dark room there's no safe light that I use, and out making underwater photograms, they must be made in the dark of the night. So this is a paper negative that I created under the surface of a lagoon here in Tucson, Arizona. And it was actually the very first paper negative that I made. Generally, when I'm exposing a paper in a water source, you would have to hike up to a mile to get to a safe, remote area to work. something that's not going to be affected by, let's move back up there, it's going too fast, city lights. I use steel plates, as you can see here, to hold the paper underwater in place during the exposure. And I submerge the paper about 6 inches, so that I'm getting a consistent flow of water over the different photograms that I create. And once I take the paper out of the water, it is stored immediately in a black bag in a box, and I put it back here. Let's see here. Sorry. And then I immediately have to take them into a duck room to be washed and dried. When I'm working out in remote areas, dark room might be created in a tent or a campground bathroom, sometimes in a hotel room or a hotel bathroom. So the exposed paper, once it's dry, is processed in photographic chemistry. And processing the exposed paper involved me driving to Arizona State University in Tempe, Arizona, which is 100 miles away, and using a very specific photographic processor. Because color photographs are obsolete, now everything is digital, this process is very outdated. The equipment used is quite rare, and the chemistry is difficult and expensive to purchase. The chemistry is also not very environmentally friendly, so that became a bigger and bigger issue for me. After using it for over 8 years, and especially after about water quality issues during the Punch project, I decided my method was contributing to the water problem, and it was time to abandon the process. So although I love the process, I love making underwater photograms, it just became untenable to continue doing. So all of these photograms are made using exactly the same process, but the colors are very different, as you can see. And I thought it might be because of what was in the water at any given location. During the boot camp that we had at the beginning of the Touch project, artists heard talks by water policy experts, city planners, hydrologists, and water rights activists. And again, the intention was to inform the artists of the different water issues around the state. We visited Grand Canyon Dam. We visited a very upscale water treatment plant in Scottsdale, Arizona, whose purpose was to clean the water in order to water the golf courses. We visited a remote river which had begun to flow naturally after the removal of a dam, which created a revitalization of the natural environment. And we also visited the Hopi and Navajo reservations. And here you can see that there is a uranium tailings disposal site on the reservation into the city. During the boot camp, I heard Ernest Taho speak, and he spoke with such passion about the water issues on the Hopi Reservation that it really had a profound effect on me. I started to wonder what would arsenic tainted water look like in a photogram. And after contacting Ernest and explaining what I'd like to do, he became a collaborator on that project. And in fact, I could not have done this without his help. I knew where the Hopi Reservation was located, but prior to boot camp, I knew very little about the water issues encountered by both the Hopi and the Navajo tribes. So in this map, you can see the Hopi Reservation is this little red area surrounded by the larger area of the Navajo Reservation. And here's Tucson, and here's the Amerind Foundation. Thanks to Ernest, I was able to understand a great deal about the water crisis and also about the very kind and gracious people that I met on the reservation. So the water in the Hopi Reservation comes from the Atlantic aquifer. It's groundwater, but it has been contaminated with arsenic because of excessive mining and pumping of groundwater by the mining industries. So the arsenic levels in the groundwater that's delivered to homes on the reservation is much more than double the level set by the EPA. And this water is used for agriculture, for farming. It's the water delivered to homes and for other domestic uses. So it's got extremely high levels of arsenic, which obviously is really unhealthy. During our trip to the Navajo Reservation, we met a resident who explained that without running water and without safe tap water, many families must drive hundreds of miles each week to haul water from water tanks that contain safer water. And to me, it was really appalling to learn that this is happening in our country. Many third world countries treat their citizens better than this. And I think some of these facts are based on the 2010 census, but I don't think many have changed that much. This is an example of a photogram that was made with unfiltered water from the Silas residence. And unfiltered water, I would collect it from outdoor taps because the water inside quickly was filtered. And I would haul it back to Tucson to make photograms. But this is what the unfiltered arsenic-tainted water looked like. So what I learned at the very beginning of this project, the project is that water sources on the reservation, they are indeed scarce, but most of all, they're sacred. So I was not able to go into the water to create my photograms as I had done with other projects. Instead, I worked with Ernest to schedule times when I could go up and collect water in many 5-gallon buckets from various sources on the reservation. And here you can see the water coming from the filter that Ernest had installed in this residence. Once I collected all the water, I hauled it back to Tucson, buckets and buckets of water, where I created underwater photograms in my darkroom. And again, these in total darkness. When I make photograms in the darkroom, I use a very deep bin, which holds about 10 gallons of water, and is large enough for me to submerge 16 by 20 sheets of the color photographic paper about 6 inches underwater. After the exposed paper had been washed and dried, I stored it in light tight containers, rolled it up to Tempe, Arizona to process the paper negatives in a process at the ASU Photo Lab. And I then would contact those paper negatives, I go back to Tucson in my dark and I contact them and to fresh sheet of paper, drive back up to Tempe and process those images to make the final positive print of the underwater photogram. And this is what a final print would look like. So filtered water collected from a kitchen tap created a photogram with water with a color that we generally associate with pure water. The color of this photogram is very similar to the color of water that I had collected at the very clean headwaters of the Colorado River in northern Colorado and the Lakes nearby. So the filtered water was indeed very clean. That one happened. Oops. Sorry about this. Let's see here. Okay. And this is another underwater photogram made with unfiltered water taken from the residence of Durham, Colorado. Ernest arranged visits to homes on each of the three mazes. So I made several trips up to the Hopi Reservation to collect water. One of the things I had learned is that the Hopi are very private people and not interested in attention from the outside world. So I was very humbled and very grateful for the opportunity to visit homes and experience the dedication of the people I met to their community and to their culture. This is Art Ernest right here, and this is Albert Silas. It's me, and this is my partner, Charles Hedgecock, who has helped me for about 6 years on this various projects. And this is water, getting ready to be hydrated. On my final trip to collect water from the reservation, Ernest introduced us to Alfred Silas, a friend of his, and a colleague, somebody who had also worked with water and was a water activist. Albert Albert the Hopi Elder, and he took us to United Spring. That's right, United Spring, where arsenic tainted water flows from underground. And this is a photogram that was made with spring water that was collected there. So the spring is in a very remote location on the reservation. And before collecting water, Albert offered prayers and asked for permission to collect water for the good of the people. And it was quite an honor to be allowed to observe this ritual and actually get water that was collected directly from the spring. So you can see in this, we're hiking down this hillside to get to the spring, which is right here, very deep, but the water was not very deep. And there's Albert in the water, and these photos were taken by Ernest. Thank you, Ernest. Throughout the process of this project, I thought about the spiritual significance of water for the Hopis and the struggles that they faced with contaminated water. So as I exposed and processed these images, I just had that thought because it's just amazing to me that the Hopis have to fight so hard and the Navajos for clean water. And I had so much gratitude and appreciation for the struggles, allowing me to be there and collect water, and also for the crisis that they face them. So the color of the water from the spring, as it appears in my photograms, looks very different than the color of the water from that's been filtered. And as in the previous projects, I would collect water and test it. There's a very basic home testing kit for water quality. The results obviously are not all scientific because it was a very simple basic kit in the Home Depot, but it indicated high amounts of metals in the water. And this suggests that metals and other contaminants in water might be responsible for the color variance. And again, it's not scientific, but I did find it more than a coincidence that in all the projects I've done, the clearest water has the clearest blue color, and various other sources have a lot of contaminants. Just for comparison, I also made photograms with Flagstaff City tap water. This is not filtered water. This is what the water looks like coming out of the tap in Flagstaff. It's quite a contrast. So this is a picture of Ernest installing a water filter in the residence. He is a tireless water rights advocate, and he has started the hashtag No Arsenic for Hopi, also known as the For Love of Water and Flow Project. Ernest's goal has been to raise enough money to purchase and install drinking water filters in the homes of every Hopi resident. They rely a lot on donations. They have received some grant funding, but I think they are still about $20,000 away from their goal. Each filter costs about $250, and Ernest has worked basically on his own to install filters in every home. So as he acquires the filters, he works with different residents, goes into their home, and installs the filters for them. He does have some volunteers, but basically, Ernest does it single-handedly. And I think his passion and dedication to this project is amazing. He's worked with various nonprofits to fundraise. And if you are interested in donating to this project, the Flow Project, you can go to this website. And this link will be included in the email that you will receive at the end of this talk. So hopefully this will help this project along. So these are the 6 photograms that I ended up putting in the exhibit, in the pouched exhibit. And you can see the big difference between unfiltered water from residents, the basically groundwater that comes out of the spring, and the filtered water in the residence, as well as the comparison to unfiltered Flagstaff City tap water. I think it says a lot about water quality issues on the reservation. So hopefully you'll be able to visit Parched. You get a Parched, the Art of Water in the Southwest. It's currently at the Amerind Museum in Dragon, Arizona. We'll be there until January 8th, 2022, which then goes to the Natural History Institute in Prescott. It'll be there until April 28th, 2022. I can't thank Ernest enough for all his help in this project and for enlightening me into many, many facets of the Hopi culture. Also, Albert Silas, Julie Connick, thank you so much for your amazing curating and support. The Hopi Center for the Arts, as well as the amazing staff, in the City of Flagstaff, and the Amerind Museum, and your amazing staff, and finally the Natural History Institute in Prescott. And thank you so much to all the Pouched artists. I really hope you can see the show because the work that's been created by these talented people is amazing. So, with that, if there are questions.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Kathleen. The first question is, are you still in contact with Mr. Taho?
Yes. And I was hoping that he could join us today, but I know that he is busy. But yes, Ernest and I get in contact with each other regularly. Not very often, but we do stay in contact.
And how did you become involved with Parched?
Julie Komnick is a wonderful artist, and I had met her, I guess maybe 10 years ago, quite a while ago, at a artist workshop. And then she had seen some of my work when I had an exhibit at the Tucson Museum of Art. And so Julie invited me to participate in the project. She coordinated it, and I think it might have been her idea, in fact. So, yes, I was invited.
And how long have you been exploring photography and all the different areas of photography?
Oh, a really long time. Before there was digital photography, I started out as a darkroom photographer, and I actually I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in sculpture, but the last elective I had to take in college, I just decided to take photography, and I just fell in love with photography and never looked back. So that was a very, very long time. And I've since worked in museums. I taught photography for many years, 20 years. I taught it, 23 years. I taught at the high school, and then I taught at the college, and I've taught workshops. So I've been doing this for a really, really long time.
And someone you know named Julie Komnick is asking, she says, I'm curious, where do you see this work going from here?
That's a great question, and I ask myself that question almost daily. As I said, I'm not going to be making any more underwater photograms, mostly because the materials are it's just too toxic for the environment, and processing the photograms is so it's just so much driving. It's just environmentally unsound. So I won't be doing any more water photograms, which makes me kind of sad. But I know I still will be working in some capacity with water and the idea of water, but I just don't know at this point what that will be. I'm incubating ideas, I guess.
And that was a second part of question. She wanted to know if you plan to continue to work with issues of water inequity.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's huge, and it is something I want to continue to work with.
And what sparked the idea of doing photograms of water?
Oh, about 15 years ago, I was doing a Fulbright in England, and I came across the work of a photographer who had done underwater photograms, and I had not been I had not been familiar with that process at that time, and I was fascinated. And so I just kind of held that in my head, and several years later, I heard a news report in Tucson about how the city had decided to not filter the water that goes to the homes in Tucson. Our water is notoriously bad. It's very hard water and creates a lot of problems for people's appliances, tastes terrible, etc. And I started thinking that it was really a class issue, that some people could afford water filters for their home. The city would not put water filters for the city, but others who could not afford to have filtered water have running water. And so I started thinking about what that would look like. And my first project actually was to create photograms of groundwater in and around Tucson, Arizona. So generally we think of it as pretty clean if it's groundwater. And compare that to photograms that I made in the recharge basins for water from the Central Arizona Project, which travels from the Colorado River through canals to Tucson, to Phoenix, to the metropolitan areas. And by the time it gets here, it's pretty crummy. So my first project was to look at photograms made with using groundwater and CAP recharge basin water. And I saw that there was a big difference. And I wanted to continue making photograms of different water sources. That was a very long-winded answer. So I hope it actually answered the question.
And you had mentioned many years of teaching photography. Are you still teaching photography? And if so, our audience sign up?
Well, I am not teaching anymore. I was teaching at King Community College here in Tucson for about 14, 15 years. And I had a lot of different artistic projects that I was working on. So I decided to stop teaching, which was really fortunate because it was right before the pandemic. So the timing was good. And I decided to not go back to teaching at this point.
And are the U.S. or governments providing any assistance in this matter? And also, how much do these water filters cost?
The water filters cost about $250 to $300 each. And at the website, if people go to the link for that website, they will get a lot more information about the filters and how long they last and how they're acquired and so on. Ernest has worked very hard to get them at a huge discount to provide them for all the homes on the reservation. And is the government doing anything? I think that they had provided funding for a water treatment facility for the Hopi and the Navajo regions, and it ended up only servicing the Navajo Nation. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I also know that there's a water treatment facility that is supposed to be built for the Hopi Reservation, I think by 2023. And again, I'm not certain about all of that information, but that's the last I read.
And besides the Parch exhibit, what other exhibits or places might our audience be able to see your work?
Basically my website, which is KathleenVelo.com. I'm in a couple of online galleries, and there will be links to those galleries. I'm in the process of switching online galleries right now. Excuse me. There will be links to those galleries on my website as soon as that's finalized. But I am not showing at any physical galleries at the moment. No.
Well, we have received many works, and thanks for using your artistic talent for humanitarian purposes. That's from our friend Jim. And all of us at Amerind would like to thank you so much for sharing your time and your lovely pieces with our audience today, as well as sharing the process that you went through and working with Ernest to bring up these photographs and bring light to this, help bring light to the situation. And I'd like to remind all of our audience members that Parched with Kathleen's photographs are on exhibit rather, now through January 16th, 2022. So hopefully between now and then, you will have the opportunity to see the Parched exhibit and enjoy her photographs in person. Well, again, thanks so much for joining us today, Kathleen. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Sorry about the audio issues, but thanks again, and it's been quite an honor to do this project. I'm very grateful. No, thank you.
Well, thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.